Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we finally go to Laura. She and I met in New York when we took a class, how to make an online class. I never did. Welcome, Laura, finally. Introduce yourself. Who is Laura who's going to join us today?
Yes, Suzanne. This is Laura Dotolo, and I am the founder and the managing principal of Clutch Bags LLC here in New York City. Clutch Made came about in 2012, and it really gave birth from Clutch Bags, which was a company I started very early in 2001. 2012, I decided that people didn't know how to get accessories made in the United States. It seemed like everyone had run over to Asia, that everything was going overseas, and no one knew how to navigate what was available here in New York City for manufacturing and for making, specifically with accessories, and then micro-focusing on handbags. I decided to start a business around that because I was leaving my styling business. I was a set stylist. I was a fashion stylist for years here in New York City, and it was just time for me to move on. I had done that for 20 years, and I knew I wanted to start something else. So I dipped into my knowledge of making handbags in New York City and working with local factories, and I knew there would be a whole movement of just making locally, being a little bit more sustainable, eco-friendly. I'm going to get into this and try this. I did the segue from going from one career to another can be a little tricky. Fortunately for me, I've always worked for myself. So I have that sort of self-discipline. I'm able to carve out the time necessary, and I was able to balance it on a financial note as well as on a time note and a scheduling note. When I wanted to get started, I basically started by putting an ad on Craigslist for consulting. There was nothing else that was built for Clutch Made manufacturing of accessories and designing accessories here in New York City. It started with one ad on Craigslist saying that, are you looking to make handbags in New York City? You should call me. We'll have a consultation.
If I have a dream of making a handbag, do I come with just a lofty idea, or how does that work? Do I need to have a blueprint already?
Well, usually there's a blueprint floating around in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's an idea that starts haunting a person or a woman, a man. They're thinking of this idea. The biggest challenge is getting that idea down onto paper. We do work with a lot of small designers or up-and-coming designers or good designers, renowned designers here in the garment district. A lot of them are doing ready to wear, so accessories are a sideline for them. Even at that level, they still have ideas floating in their head, and they work with us to help get that idea down onto paper. We've become very good at that first step of guiding a person through with an online course and a design consultation of working that idea out and using a platform that we're all very familiar with for them to organize themselves. And it's not only the design, but it's also the marketing and branding, because they do go hand in hand, especially in this day and age.
That's why the online class comes in and it's so handy. People can get to know you. Then you have a step-by-step approach.
Exactly. The online course we basically did to level the playing field with people who are unfamiliar with the process. When you go into any new process, you're always a little timid or scared, no matter what it is. We were talking about running or doing any athletics or getting back into something that you've been away from for a while. You're a little nervous about it, so you get apprehensive. That holds a lot of people back from moving on to a new profession or trying to build a brand or a new business. So it's always nice to have something where you have a chance and a moment to breathe and to actually learn something about it that we can offer you so you understand the journey. And then once you understand the lingo, you understand the schedule, the pace, then you understand the journey. You feel like, oh, I got this. Okay. And it's not as scary as it looks. I just need to now organize myself and take it step by step. And sooner than that, you're going to be off and running. You're going to have a brand going and you're going to work through the steps, have a website, do your social media. We really are a one-stop shop. We do take people from the very beginning all the way through their website. We'll do social media maintenance besides developing the product because we really believe in having that business go along with the product. You can't get anything out there on the market unless you understand marketing and branding.
This is fantastic. It's a new world that I'm learning so much. When I compare it to my coaching, you take the person by the hand, they have an idea, and then follow the steps. It's basically what you do in coaching. What is your goal? Where do you see yourself? And how can we get there? How can we work together? And you offer all the services, even the social media.
Well, it's very true. How do you get there? It's always a path you have to take in laying out the path with anything in life. What we discovered and what I discovered when I was building the brand is I started off with this one consult. And then as I saw the needs arising and the clients asking for, oh, so where do I go for the tech pack? Now, the design of it, the document that has all the specs on it. Where do I go now for the materials? Where do I go now for making the sample? This is when I started adding everything on to the business of ClutchMade. So that's when the next service came into being. So I would, let's offer the tech pack service. Let's offer the sourcing. Let's offer the custom hardware. Let me get together my factory to make the samples, make the productions. And then they'd say, oh, who does my social media? Oh, we can do that. Okay. Who does my website? We can work with you on that. Who does my photography? We can do that. So this makes our clients feel so much more comfortable because once they enter working with us, they don't have to go shop it somewhere else, which it can stop you in your tracks. It can get frustrating. Maybe they don't trust the person. Maybe they feel like the other vendor doesn't understand what they're trying to do. So it takes them in a different direction. It is very valuable to be working with one agency / factory, we call ourselves, develop your product and brand in one place and to launch it right through that same door.
I can only say fantastic. That's really a whole concept. It's end to end. You have an idea of the product and then you see the end product and you follow those steps along the way. What is interesting, you always say we, and at the beginning you say I when I started. So how many employees do you have?
At the beginning, it was me solo building it up. Now there's about 6 on board. I have my factory and then there's the factory as well. So with the factory, there's about 6 more. And then there's my designers encompass the 6 with social media, graphic design, designing handbags, etc.
And where is the factory?
The factory is located in Queens. I have the office here in New York City in the garment district. It's just that rents have gotten expensive and space is hard and it's hard in and out. It's easier for us to have the workings out there. We have our meetings in the city every week with samples and productions and materials. So we are able to do that.
Talk a little bit about the sustainability part.
I was one of those people who grew up where my parents always talked about how things used to all be made in the USA. Though there was a day this used to be made in the USA. The USA, we made everything here. Even the garment district used to account for about 96% of the clothes that were sold in this country were made right here in the garment district. Can you imagine all the factories, the hustle and bustle? Everything was here. And it slowly started disintegrating. That started happening in early 2000. All of a sudden, things started kind of flushing away because people were more concerned about getting a better price overseas. In my head, I was brought up with this background of values for products in the USA. And so I said, what? I'm going to make my handbags in the USA. And it was right about the time that everyone was like Kate Spade was going overseas and everyone was leaving. So a lot of the handbag factories in New York City were actually closing. I went door to door and I found one. Let's get it started. That's how it started with my whole sustainability back in 2001 of wanting to start making handbags and being local. Back in that day, it was kind of hard because I don't think people understood. It was a big transition in product at that time. I saw something that was probably coming down the line of how eventually that would peter out, making all the way around the world, which we have done in different countries around the world. It's no different, but there is some value to making in the USA. Although it is becoming harder and harder to find goods that are made here, raw materials that are made here, and even having labor that has the talent to make some of these items. Even with handbags, there's a special skill. You have to be an artisan to put a handbag together at a level that's like luxurious.
Then you're catering more to the luxurious segment.
It's an affordable luxury price. We make high-end, high-quality products. You're not looking at making 3,000 pieces of something made in nylon. That costs like $1 each, and we're just not at that level. We prefer making beautiful product. We're not so concerned about quantity. We start at small minimums. 25 units is fine for us for most average handbag. We'll break that down into a few colors. Why? We don't want to flood our clients with tons of products. Why? Because it's not easy to sell things, and you have to learn how to do that. We don't want to make things that are going to end up in landfills. We want people to feel comfortable about having a quantity that they feel they can sell and get out there. Who needs 10,000 of something that ends up in your garage and then you're not quite sure what to do with all of it? That's how waste happens. We really believe in making locally, making numbers that work for you so you don't feel overwhelmed, and having quality products that last. Because if you have a quality product, you don't need to throw it in the garbage in 2 years because it broke, it cracked, it peeled. You want something that lasts for 10 years, then you're not consuming as much.
I'm always curious about the trends. What are the trends these days that you see?
Well, there's a lot of individuality going on. I'm seeing a lot of trends, a lot of silver metallic. That has to do with pop culture and Beyonce and her silver tour, and that hit hard. There's a lot of that coming at us now, which is fun. It's nice to see things that are shiny. There's a lot of shiny coming back. It feels it's special. It makes it special and fun. There's a lot of satchel handbags, bags you can move in that go across the body so it leaves your hands free. There's a lot of great straps happening that are removable. There's a lot of nice materials going on. There's a trend in vegan leathers, which are basically polyurethane leathers. They do have plastics in them. There is a trend for clients and brands being a little bit more aware of their products and the mark that their products might leave later on. They are looking and sourcing for materials that are more kind to our planet, maybe more biodegradable, or even in the making are made with more care and attention to being more eco-friendly and conscious of the environment.
Now let's talk a little bit about leadership and entrepreneurs. You have 6 employees and 6 in the factory. How do you find your talent? Because you said it's not so easy to find the good talent.
No, it's not so easy to find good talent. It's just really important to go through to kind of find the right people who seem to work for your personality and who seem to work for what your needs are and your priorities are. I've always been drawn to people who are multi-talented with creativity. This way they can pivot. As I grew as a business, they could do different tasks that were needed. And they were very talented at that, but they also enjoyed doing that because they didn't feel like they were just pinned into one area. So it worked for them as well. My makers and my whole team there, I finally got to the point where they're very particular, conscientious. They love detail. They love the makings of it. They just love the overall feeling of it. So it was a good fit when they cared as much as I cared about the product. They cared about detail, the finishes. So I knew that was a right fit. The less you have to micromanage, then that you have the right people working for you. You shouldn't have to micromanage people so much, especially in this day and age too. There's a lot of people who are working remotely, so you can't be over people all the time. But if you trust in them, trust in the way that they work, it's seeing that work ethic coming through. Not everyone possesses that, but it's having an eye for that. You spy that at the beginning through the talk. And if they have that hunger for working well, then you're all set. As long as you give that guidance, it's important to be aware of what's going on, to pay attention to. to meet with them once a week at least, and then as a team, and then to have your own individual meetings with each one during the week, just to kind of catch up, touch base, see where they're at, any problems, keep track of emails when you're CC'd in case you see any flags, just to point things out. When you show that you care, then they care. So that's an important part. And then it's really important. It's a woman team for design. And I really like to build up the women. So I always tell them, we're doing this to build you up. You're not going to be working with us forever, but I want you to go out into the world and have more skills than you came in with. It's all about making you a better person and professional as you enter the world. And I value that the most because we're not going to be here forever. But what we give out is something that they can give on. And that's an important thing when you're working for anybody. You spend a lot of time working. When you're working, you want to do something that you enjoy.
You just speak to my heart, especially women-owned, building the women up. And it's not about the International Women's Day, taking one picture and put it on social media. It's like walking the talk. So thank you so much for what you're doing for the women and building them up. It seems like you're a very busy person. Do you work all the time, or how do you rejuvenate your batteries? What do you do when you don't work?
As you become more seasoned, right, in the world and with experience, that's one thing you really have to pay attention to. I'm finding that I'm reading more about that now. I am at a point where I have to really pay attention to that because you have to carve that time out for yourself. You have to really take care of yourself. Health-wise, exercise, vitamins, eating, keep the stress and anxiety low. It seems like you really need to have that surrounding you so you feel strong in that. You don't want that foundation to really move too much because that's what's holding you together. It's funny you say this and bring it up. I am focusing on that more. Really at this moment.
Okay.
Yes, it's super important all the time to really, it's important to have all facets of who you are because they come into your being of, it makes up everything. You're not a different person in every world. You bring the same person into each of your roles. So it's very important to keep your health up and find that when you sneak in a little meditation here, you do some stretching, you make sure you get a good salad, you try to catch a nap. Do you take a bath? It's how it all adds up into self-care.
If you're not healthy and happy, how can you exude then the leadership to the others? They say, oh, she's so stressed out, I cannot work with her. But if you're calm and composed, and this is when the people want to work for you and especially do good work and be proud of the good work they can also do for you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Solo entrepreneurs, it's very true. I always talk with my clients when I do my consultations and we go through a SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And I always say, when you work for yourself, especially when you're the one in charge, you will have a SWOT analysis every week. Some of the challenges will be different than others or stronger, but you can't get around it. You have to go through it. And sometimes you have to go through it alone. So whatever that challenge might be, some are bigger, but there's nowhere to run and hide. You can't because it's your business. And you have to stand up like a big girl, put on the big girl dress and the big girl lipstick, and you have to figure it out. And you will. And it'll make you even stronger and better for the next challenge that comes your way.
Thank you so much. I want to finish here on that high note. Put the lipstick on. Obviously, that's really important. You need to look good and feel good as an entrepreneur. Thank you so much, Laura. I'm happy that we finally were able to conduct this interview.
You are so welcome. It's so nice to connect with you again.
What a cool and uplifting conversation. What are you taking away? Follow a step-by-step program. Entrepreneur, business owner, or coach, always the same. Step-by-step approach. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday. Check in with us, with cool people who can show you where they started and what they're doing now. And also download the book or get the book, Take It From the Ironwoman, Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Thank you for your support. Like us on the social media platforms and see you next time.